Hello and welcome to another episode of Telling Everybody Everything. It is Monday, the 15th of September, the birthday of Jimmy Carr, your inspiration and mine. Fred has been using the word inspiring lately. I'm not sure how he heard it, but he used it in the right context the first time. He said something that's really inspiring, an inspiring story, and it was. And I think we overreacted. We're like, yes, Fred, inspiring. And now he'll be like, I have a really inspiring boo-boo. And we're like, no, okay, no. What a week. What a world. I think Jamie Lang is one of the nicest and smartest and funnest and funniest and most well-connected people. He and his company produce many podcasts. One of them, Write Me Dirty, is my podcast where comedians face off writing erotic fan fiction about each other and they read it aloud and awkwardness and hilarity ensues. I declare a winner based on, arbitrary factors. Fine. People are loving Write Me Dirty. If you haven't listened to it yet, please do listen wherever you get your podcasts. He has several other podcasts. Obviously, his ones, the one with his beautiful wife, Sophie, that is now called Nearly Parents because they're having a baby around the same time that Bobby and I are having our fourth baby, which is why I sound out of breath on every episode because I am. And the baby right now just freaked out for some reason. Probably the iced latte that I'm drinking. And he's got one with Paloma Faith called Mad, Bad, and Sad. And I was a guest on that one as well because what else am I doing? Just podcasts relentlessly until Amazon Prime asked me to come on LOL, which they haven't. And I'm taking it as a personal slight. First, I thought, they're only having British people. But I happen to know there's a non-British person on the next series. And I went, hang on. I'm Commonwealth. The Queen has been on every dollar I've ever earned, but that's beside the point. Maybe it's a me thing and not a citizenship thing as previously described. I can accept that. So Mad, Bad, and Sad was a wonderful experience. You talk about what makes you mad, what makes you sad, and when you've been bad. And I did talk about cheating on that podcast with Paloma Faith. Now, this was months ago. I think I was probably like 9 months ago. I was either not pregnant or early in that pregnancy. So the clips all went out. And then all of a sudden they reshared a clip where I talk about cheating. And Jamie Lang, you see, he and his team, they know what they're doing. I thought, why are they resharing this clip now about how men just are capable of leaving the house, forgetting they have a fucking family, and putting their little penis where it doesn't belong? In the clip, everything I say is tongue-in-cheek in my life. You can kind of just give me that grace anyway. I'm not inspiring in the way that, an educated person who's a specialist in psychology or, I'm never really being that serious. And I think an extreme position is always the funniest position. So I choose to take that extreme position. So sometimes that involves making wild generalizations, specifically in this case about gender. But I largely, with a bit of hyperbole involved, stand by them. Yes, I think women cheat, but not in the same way. No happy woman, or, there will be outliers, but very few heteronormative, happy, married women with kids whose husbands are being kind to them, raising the children well, contributing to the household, no harmonious marriage really suffers from the betrayal of a woman just deciding to fuck someone else one day. That just rarely happens. And I think it happens with men a lot, and a lot more than we're willing to admit. So that clip, you can see it on my Instagram. I shared it. They shared it again. I thought, wow, how's this relevant now? But fine, I shared it, got loads of comments. It makes people angry. There are loads of men, obviously, who don't want me telling the truth to the women that they're cheating on in their lives, so they get upset. And then I'm influenced, this news story that is hot off the press, and I'm sure you have seen it. I don't know this guy. His name is Tom. He's apparently participating in this year's Strictly Come Dancing, And he's gone off-piste by having an affair pre-Strictly, like, which is refreshing in a way, because a lot of people wait until they've got a sexy Eastern European dancer wrapping her legs around his face 8 nights a week, and then they have the affair. That's like the Strictly curse. We all talk about that. But Tom is actually like such a young go-getter that he had the affair apparently 3 years ago. And what happened, from my understanding, now you'll have to give me some creative license with my understanding, because it may not be incredibly accurate. What I gathered from the clips is that 3.5 years ago, this Tom had an affair. It was short-lived. He confessed to his wife. His wife, in his words, forgave him. And then they moved on. They have 3 children together. This happened shortly after they were married. I've seen photos of her. I kind of vaguely remember this Tom. He was on The Apprentice like in 2005, which feels like a long time ago, but I think he was able to maintain momentum through like a social media career and just overall being an entrepreneur, like a real Essex lad, and good for him. I hope he brought in a lot of money in their marriage. I hope this woman, his wife, lives in Gucci and gold and gets her hair and nails done with her girlfriends and doesn't have to do much. That is my wish. Because when it was announced that he would be competing on Strictly, what looks like transpired is this woman from the past tried to sell a story, or like successfully sold a story to the tabloids, being like, oh, I had a fling with him right after he got married. And then that pushed this Tom to do the classic sit down tell all where he's like, yeah, done it. I had an affair. Some of the quotes from this thing. And it's exactly as I said. He's like, it was a moment of weakness. We were not arguing in our marriage or having any relationship troubles. The aftermath was very dark. My wife never deserved that. She's such a good person. Without her, I would not be where I am today. She made me, this is a very important quote for the lawyers in the eventual spousal support tribunal. He advised anyone who's made a mistake to be honest and own up to it. We are in an incredible place. It's forgotten about. We've moved on from it now. What I would say is false. False. It's forgotten is the word. Forgotten is such a really inflammatory term for me, because I think that for him, yeah, it seems forgotten. She forgave him and his life carried on as far as he's concerned. He's like, yep, luckily, my wife just decided to forgive me for some reason. I mean, she was in a vulnerable position. We'd just been married. We have 3 small kids. I think she seemed to be like pregnant at the time or raising small children. There's also the layer of shame. A lot of women in this scenario absorb a man's shame as their own. This woman's young, like she loves him. It's so complex when you're betrayed like that, especially when it comes out of absolutely nowhere. You think you're in a good relationship. He said himself, we weren't arguing. We're having a good relationship. He met some woman, this is the funniest part, in a bar, and she offered him like fat jabs, like a free cosmetic treatment, which I think at the time was like early Ozempic, which is like, if that's your opener for a shag, like, hey, Tubbs, I actually have access to some off-brand Manjaro if you're interested. And then we start fucking a week later. Okay. You know what I mean? And like people will be like, well, she had a responsibility in this too. Who's this woman? You know what? The wife doesn't have a contract with this woman. It's not her responsibility. This woman may not have behaved the right way. She may be, and we don't say it enough anymore, a slag. There are slags. It's not the worst thing in the world to be. It's smart, if you think about it, to like enjoy these men for what they're worth and not be the wife at home who's crying, who's having to like hide from her friends what has happened, and her whole life is in upheaval, and then she's forced to forgive someone who was on The Apprentice 20 years ago. And he's like, it's forgotten. I promise you, your wife has not forgotten, because in the back of your wife's mind, all right, she decided to move on from it. She has whatever values. And that's the other hypocrisy in this whole thing, is I think this Tom has like conservative values. I have read that he speaks a lot about like the family unit, and he's for reform and like, He's allowed whatever politics he wants to have, but isn't it interesting that these are the men who are like, and then I accidentally got lost and put my willy in another woman, a stranger. I didn't mean to do it. I just did it because she gave me Manjaro and then I felt important. And I don't want to bully these guys because it's so weird to me how, especially connected to Strictly, it's like if you cheat, it's the biggest news in the world. And you're like on the cover of The Sun and it's this big story, da-da-da-da-da. And then these men, like, they have their careers blown up some of the time when they didn't even do anything illegal. They just did something trashy. It happens so often. It shouldn't even be a big news story. But it is. We have this cultural piousness of like, oh my God, he had an extramarital affair. Yeah. A lot of non-famous families are navigating the same thing. And I don't think this guy's special. I'm not trying to say that he's like scum of the earth and he doesn't deserve to be on Strictly. He doesn't deserve to have a career. He made a mistake, yeah. But I think he's very ordinary. I think a lot of the guys in his group of friends will have done that. They might have like got sucked off on their stag do. They might have had sex with a sex worker on someone else's stag do. They might have met a woman in a pub who offered them a free cosmetic treatment and had a 2-week fling with her. Yes, and they got away with it because 3.5 years later, they weren't invited on Strictly. And this is why it's never forgotten, is because that lovely wife, beautiful girl that she is, mother of his 3 children, a saint, as he describes her in his little tell-all apology tour, she's probably thinking in the back of her mind, oh, well, if you go on Strictly, is this woman ever gonna try to sell a story and then you tell the whole nation like what you did and then I have to relive it again and then paps are gonna be chasing me and my kids on the school run and then photos of me are gonna be released and then Katherine Ryan's talking to me about me on her podcast and blah, blah, blah. Like it's not forgotten. She has just compartmentalized it and decided to move on and be a family because of her values, but it lives somewhere in her. Just like fizzing. And it's so painful. And she doesn't know why you did it because everything was fine between you guys. And you can't even explain. Oh, by the way, when he talks about it, he describes this affair partner as being attractive. Like those are his words. He's like, she was an attractive single mom. To publicly acknowledge that this woman is attractive, like just twist the knife in your angel wife's heart. Whatever. Like, should he still be on Strictly and have a career? Absolutely. Do what you want. Like, do what you want. I don't believe in like canceling people for this, but just that is probably why the clip of me talking about men this way resurfaced. And this is what I believe. And I don't say it in my stand-up and on podcasts when I'm asked about men cheating. I don't say it because I want women to have anxiety or to be like checking their partner's phones or to be like, oh, I wonder where he's going. Quite the opposite. I think you should leave, because it doesn't matter. Leave all that to, you know, he can have his privacy. He can go out. He could do whatever. But you just need a level of preparedness. 20% of like, yeah, maybe. Even a respectable husband and father is capable of this at any time. Maybe. They don't always think. Use celebrity examples like this where they go, everything was fine in my life. I love my wife. As proof that like none of us are above this. It could just happen. And you should just prepare your heart a little bit for like, oh yeah, they go rogue sometimes. And I don't know what's going to happen in their marriage now. It is a different thing for a lot of women when it's made this public. Like, even though she has nothing to be embarrassed about, it is humiliating, I can imagine. But whatever. When I'm right, I'm right. I am so refreshed this week to bring you news of women pissing me off. Yeah. I am always all about the ladies. I usually, unfortunately, in today's news cycle, both celebrity, political, and just like world news, I do take issue with the actions and reactions of men. And then I enjoy lifting women up. But there was a clip of me talking about breastfeeding and fertility that got a lot of the Mumsnet crew in the comments. And I was not, I wouldn't say shocked, because I think that it's very deliberate that people worldwide are deeply uneducated about women's health. Medical professionals are uninformed about women's health. Women themselves don't understand their own anatomy. That shouldn't come as a surprise to me, no. But basically, the aforementioned Jamie Lang, and I'm sorry to bring him up again, but we've been working together a lot lately. He and his young, beautiful, expectant wife, Sophie, they don't appear to know a lot about how they got pregnant, how it's going to go with the labor and delivery, like how any of it works. And bless them, because they went to schools that probably taught them about dinner party placements and like tax evasion. I don't really know what posh people learn in school. Again, I love these kids, but there doesn't seem to be a lot of practical teaching. And Jamie, I know, said, and he's very funny, and they're probably exaggerating when they say, I love these. I love them, and I wish them just a lifetime of joy and success. But he thought if you put on a Barry White record and had sex, the woman would be pregnant. That's what he thought. And I said, yes, that is what we should teach young men. That's for the best, that they believe that, and then hopefully they either abstain or use protection or come into the trash where their ejaculate truly belongs. And I said to him, no, a woman usually, now when we talk about anatomy and biology and science, we're, again, sort of generalizing based on statistics and what normally in a functional reproductive system is expected to happen. There will be always medical anomalies, and this is not just with getting pregnant, just with anything. Because everyone's different and bodies behave in strange ways, and we're finding new things all the time, and not everyone will follow the norm. But the norm that we have decided is that most, not all, most women probably have around a 28-day cycle. I don't. Mine's like 34. I expect that. I don't argue with the 28-day cycle. I don't go, well, mine's 34. I go, yeah, around 28 days, fine. And you have a luteal phase, and you have what's the other phase? I don't even remember what it's called, but the phase where your endometrial lining is building up and you are releasing and producing certain hormones to make a hospitable environment for an egg that you release for 24 hours only, about 2 weeks in. You're going to release that perfect egg. The other follicles die out. They choose the strongest candidate. And all of the different, climate in your womb, hopefully your endometrium is receptive and all the hormones are in place to make a nice, cozy, thick duvet for that little egg to implant. It gets fertilized. If you have sex within like a window of, let's call it 3 to 5 days around that time, there could be sperm hanging around when you ovulate, ideally. And then if it's good sperm and a good egg, hopefully they'll fertilize, and then it will embed into the endometrial lining that is nice and thick. And then a pregnancy will hopefully continue from there. That's how it works. Yes, people can get pregnant at other times of the month. That's why you should be careful. Yes, people can get pregnant during their period. People can also climb Mount Everest, but those people would be outliers. Usually, during your period, the end of your luteal phase, when you're actively bleeding and shedding the lining of your womb, it's probably not a hospitable place for a fertilized egg to implant. But there will be outliers, fine. So Jamie spoke about trying to get Sophie pregnant on her period, and I was like, ha ha ha, because usually people know that that's not the ideal time to try. And I'm, paraphrasing. So then we spoke about breastfeeding. And I said, yeah, usually, and again, there will be different people who fall outside of this generalization. Usually, if you are using LAM, which is LAM. What does it stand for? Lactation, A something, who knows? I know enough, but I don't know all the words. If you're exclusively breastfeeding a brand new baby, then your estrogen is really low. Your prolactin to make the milk is really high. Usually in those first few weeks or months, you will not ovulate. Some women absolutely do ovulate, and they are the ones who have, quote, Irish twins. They will have babies that are like 10 or 12 months apart. But for most women, if you are breastfeeding a lot, round the clock, like within 2 hours all the time, even at night, all the time, then your ovulation will be suppressed. And I think that's nature's way of kind of protecting you from having another baby too soon. Also, your uterus is like recovering from having a baby. You have a wound like the size of a dinner plate where your placenta has like ejected itself from the side of your womb. It's painful, it's contracting, you're bleeding for weeks. You're not likely to get pregnant right away. And that's all I said. I said, yeah, if Sophie exclusively breastfeeds, she might not ovulate for a while. And we started speaking about that, fine. Now, I am someone who got pregnant breastfeeding, but I got pregnant with Fenna when Fred was 9 months old. So my breastfeeding was kind of, the schedule was getting looser. I would pump, sometimes leave it in the fridge, go to work. There would be hours between when I would breastfeed. I expected that I would start ovulating. Yes, you ovulate 2 weeks-ish before you have your first period, so you should be careful because you don't always know when you're ovulating. But even before my first period, I did know I was ovulating. I knew from like other changes. If you want to get fruity, I knew from like the wetness. Anyway. That's all I'm saying. I'm just giving them like an overview of female anatomy, biology, fertility, whatever. And then all these women in the comments were like, this is misinformation. You should be ashamed of yourself. You're going to get a lot of people pregnant, because I actually got pregnant breastfeeding, and I actually got pregnant on my period, and I actually have 5 babies born within 3 years of each other and I'm like, yes, you. And they're like, yeah, and all my friends. And you're super fertile as soon as you give birth. You are super fertile. That is the most likely time to get pregnant again. I'm sorry. Maybe you have anecdotal evidence that there are people in your family who, some women ovulate 2 eggs at a time, many times instead of 1. They're just more likely. Some women will start ovulating sooner, but the like what we have decided typical woman is not more likely to get pregnant as soon as she has had a baby. She is less likely especially she is exclusively breastfeeding, period. And these women are so sure of themselves in the comments. They're like, your hormones go through the roof. What hormones? Can you name one of them? Because the hormone that goes through the roof is the one that suppresses ovulation. Sandra. God damn. And these women are like so sure of themselves. And they're not just like, oh, really? Like they don't open the conversation up to like, that's funny because from like my cousins and myself, we got pregnant straight away. Because then I'd be like, yeah, you did. Like some people do. And I even mentioned that in the chat with Jamie. I prefaced it with, yes, you still can get pregnant. Anything can happen. But when they get into like the science of it, holy fucking crow. I was like, what a beautiful day that women are pissing me off. That I think these women are stupid. And they totally lack the ability to grasp any like nuance in a conversation. It was really refreshing for me because day to day, I just love women, support women, defend women. And on this day, I was like, you bitches are dumb as hell. It was great. It was a great day for me. And then the next day I went back to just really liking women again. Well, it seems like only yesterday we were talking about Charlie Kirk on the podcast because we were. The smoke is still smoldering from the hottest hot topic to engulf the Ryan Koostra household this week. It is the assassination of ultra right-wing activist and influencer Charlie Kirk. I would not have known who this boy was if it weren't for Violet. So if you are like me and you're living your life and you're doing the school run and you live in London, so the tube strike added hours to your commute, and you just aren't in the like TikTok sphere of who these like little irritants are, you might not have known. And then all of a sudden now he's like the Martin Luther King of the right. And everybody knows, and it's this huge story, but chiefly among, I think, kind of 16 to 30-year-olds. So Andrew has very helpfully tried to give us like a boomer recap so that without bias and with full empathy, we kind of inform you what everybody's so hot about, because now it's, you're going to hear about it a lot. Oh, so this came up on the Swift-Kelsey episode. We included the late Kirk's spin that Taylor should reject feminism and, quote, submit to her husband because she is, quote, not in charge. As you can imagine, Violet is devastated over his passing, but we will get into some of his spicier quotes in a bit. Firstly, who was he? Charlie Kirk began his career as a student activist forming the conservative student organization Turning Point USA, which quickly grew into a political machine with the help of wealthy donors who noticed the chord he was striking with the under-30s crowd, a demographic not exactly known for their baked-in conservative politics. His first major influence operation was the, quote, Professor Watch List, which sought to fire or silence professors and educators through targeted harassment campaigns for sharing opinions opposed to Turning Point. But Kirk really entered the hearts and minds in October 2020 when, up until his death, he hosted a 3-hour daily radio talk show called The Charlie Kirk Show. According to internal data, it was being downloaded between 500,000 and 750,000 times each day as of 2024. So he became a close friend and ally of the Trump administration, arguably their most effective messenger to millennial and Gen Zs. And he was instrumental in turning the latter contingent out in 2024, causing Trump to eke out his victory and landing us all in the quaint garbage nest that we find ourselves in now. So what happened? On Wednesday, September 8th, which is my sister Carrie's birthday. Was it September 8th? Yes. Kirk, well, this was when he embarked on the first stop of his, quote, prove me wrong, parentheses, the American Comeback Tour. This always annoyed me. This, like, prove me wrong, like, and let me just first and foremost come out before we get into the rest of this and say that I am opposed to all gun violence. I am opposed to people being murdered in public or behind closed doors. I am opposed to anyone facing violence for having an opinion. I am also opposed to many of the opinions of Charlie Kirk, but obviously no man deserves what public execution he got, arguably in front of his wife and children. Now I'm hearing reports his wife and children weren't there. It doesn't matter. He absolutely didn't deserve to lose his life. I don't feel like I should have to say that, but obviously that's what I think. But I did not ever like this, like, prove me wrong, like sitting at a table and inviting people to like come and do the intellectual work of trying to explain empathy to you. It really reeked of like entitlement and just the whole prove me wrong chair. I hadn't seen Charlie Kirk himself do that, or if I did, I didn't know who he was, but I had seen on different campuses this like sanctimonious prove me wrong chair. So like, he was inflammatory. That's what you have to be on social media now, I guess, to get a reaction, and he certainly did that well. So the Prove Me Wrong tour started in a suburb of the Mormon Mecca state of Utah. Over the past several years, Charlie Kirk made a name for himself by debating people with opposing ideologies, the rage clicking alone amassing billions, perhaps even trillions of views, and the plan was to take his barking dog and stomping pony show on the road. Approximately 20 minutes into the outdoor debate spectacle in which Kirk was ironically asked to defend his views on gun violence, a student asked, "Do you know how many mass shooters there have been in America over the last 10 years?" With Kirk's fateful last words being counting or not counting gang violence. And without missing a beat, a single gunshot was heard, striking Kirk in the neck and causing the crowd to scatter. Videos of the gruesome attack are circulating from every angle, perhaps the most chilling one being of a TikToker narrating the ensuing chaos while dropping his personal hashtags and urging viewers to follow him as people scurried in terror. That's gross. The same TikToker was later spotted going back to loot the remaining merch on the table Kirk was sat at. The hustle never stops for that guy. So I thought it was September 10th, actually. I remember we were in the kitchen. Violet came down the stairs kind of incredulously, just announcing, Charlie Kirk's dead. And she didn't seem like happy or sad. She was just surprised, like, Charlie Kirk's dead. And I thought, what? Because I had never heard of this man until the Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce episode where she, we were bringing up his takes, which are terribly misogynist, outdated, traditional takes, obviously. And I thought, what are you talking? And I think Bobby straight away went to empathy. He's like, well, if a man is dead, like, you should be sad about that. And she was like, well, I'm not. I just heard this on my TikTok. And it reminded me of when Anna Nicole Smith died, actually, a figure that I loved. I ran down the stairs at Hooters. I must have had a smartphone, or maybe the radio was on. I don't think I had a smartphone at Hooters, but anyway. And I ran down into the restaurant, and I had been getting ready. I know what you're thinking. I wasn't up in the office I was doing my shift that day. I was coming to work, not leaving. And I ran down the stairs and I went, oh my God, Anna Nicole Smith's dead. And I announced it in a way where I might have seemed almost happy, but I think when you're young, you just get swept up in like the tea, like delivering news is like, and then when I delivered that news, I wasn't sure if it was real or not. I just thought, I'm the first person who can tell this to my friends. And that's the energy Violet came down the stairs with. And at that point, he had not been officially declared deceased. But she said, oh, there's a video in my group chat. I don't want to see it. Will you look at it? And I would never seek out a violent video. I actually quit Twitter, formerly Twitter, now X, because the algorithm just showed me, like, auto-played a really violent video. And I just thought, I've had enough of this place. Like, I have no desire to see that. But I watched it for her because I think it was just a moment of, like, chaos. I didn't know what I would be watching. So I unfortunately did see, by accident, a video of the shot and how it went. And even I, from like no military background, I saw that video and I said, well, I mean, that is either AI or this man is dead, because I don't think that you can survive what I just saw, and definitely don't look at it. And I passed it to Bobby, and Bobby was like, yeah, I don't think you can survive what I just saw either, if that is real. We didn't know at that point if the video was real. And then we spoke about it, and it was interesting to walk slowly over the next 20 minutes through the reaction of young people. And I'm glad that Violet came down to the kitchen, because what was unfolding on her TikTok and in her Snapchat circles was very different to, what I would get from CNN or BBC News the next day. And I really appreciated witnessing these young people unpack the gravity of the situation in real time. And there were conversations going back and forth where they're just like, yeah, I didn't agree with this, but how horrible. And like to see them, as young as they were, like really playing out that empathy, because they had, a lot of them, like Charlie Kirk, a lot of them had villainized this man, because like, let's not sugarcoat it. It's rude to say it when a man has just lost his life. There's like a grace period where you wait to say that they were an asshole. Sort of like when Kobe Bryant tragically died. Like, as a man who was with his child and had a family and who was presumably reformed, I think it was in poor taste that when Kobe Bryant died in the helicopter accident, that people came straight out about the period in his life where there were sexual assault charges. It's like, yes, everything's complicated. Nothing's black and white. He did terrible things, but today he has died in a horrific crash, and so has his daughter. And maybe that's like, wait a few days before bringing that up. You can think someone is a bad influence and still mourn their demise. You know what I mean? Like, I think both things can exist. People really struggle with nuance now. My grandpa, when he died, and he was, He was kind of a Kobe Bryant, Charlie Kirk mix, I would say. Talented, really smart, very handsome, gregarious, like social, funny, like successful in his business. Like he was many a great thing. But he had, these traditional cultural demons. He probably had very Charlie Kirk views. And again, some of what Charlie Kirk says, I do agree with. With all of these guys, even some of what Andrew Tate says, I agree with. But then there are glaring red flags dotted kind of crucially, like in and amongst these things, almost strategically, very red flags that I super disagree with, that I think are damaging and really like hurt marginalized people. However, some of what Charlie Kirk says, I like. I sometimes, now that I'm looking at his work, I find him articulate. I like what he says about like abstaining from alcohol. I like what he says about success. I agree with some of these like family values. Anyway, my grandpa had a lot of great things, but he wasn't a great dad. And so I think when his eulogy was crafted, where like the family have to get together and they talk to a celebrant, and the celebrant decides like what to say about the deceased father. They were like, so was he a good father? Was he? And that's difficult. I think it was difficult for my mom to sit in that room and be like, well, no, he wasn't. But it seems rude to say when someone has just died. But you also can't sit up there and lie and be like, he was an incredibly soft and loving, attentive father. Like, you know what I mean? So then you cleverly just talk about, you play Frank Sinatra and you talk about the good elements that he had. So, there. Social media delved into an absolute bedlam with right-wing accounts instantaneously blaming the left for inciting this attack and vowing revenge, including bizarrely, clearly AI-generated video from the official White House account featuring a glitching Trump with morphing hands. The actual video was of the U.S. president taken at a ceremony commemorating 9/11. Has all signs pointing to him having a stroke-induced palsy, which might be why he passed the call to arms off to his robot avatar. All of this seemed especially reckless considering that as of that AI-generated address, no suspect had been found, let alone a motive or ideology determined. This was all made richer by the fact that moments after the violence erupted in Utah, another shooter attacked an elementary school in Colorado. So the network's split-screen person really had their work cut out for them on Wednesday. And now for the true crime of it all, what we know. After several downright wacky rumors spreading online identifying the suspect as a 70-year-old something gentleman from Toronto, authorities finally released a security cam screen grabs of who they believe to be the suspect. And hold on to your hats. It is a college-aged, cisgendered white man, presumably heterosexual too, and one who clearly had done a recon mission because he knew exactly when and where to turn his head to evade the cameras, leaving a nondescript outfit whose standout piece was a black t-shirt featuring an American flag on it as the only identifier they have to go on. The shooter arrived on campus at 11:52 a.m., and footage shows him moving to the roof where he fired at Kirk. He then moved to the other side of the building, jumped off the roof, and headed to a nearby neighborhood. The weapon, a high-powered bolt-action rifle, was found in a wooded area near campus, wrapped in a blanket with a screwdriver left near it, indicating the shooter may have used it to disassemble and reassemble the firearm before using it. In a video showing the alleged shooter walking to campus, he's ambling with a limp, which he sure as shit didn't have sprinting away, so it's thought that he was concealing the barrel in his pant leg. How are, like, young men, they can't keep their room clean, but they've got, like, sophisticated military knowledge on how to pull something sick like this off? Like, as a total non-American, like, non-understanding of this culture outsider, like, where do they learn this online? Do they get it from some video games? Like, how would he have this knowledge? To me, I don't know. I don't trust anybody. I don't trust anything, but I feel like, I don't know, if is a kid pulling this off? A tense day and a half in which online conspiracy theories snowballed went by, capped off by a desperate plea by state and federal officials to help in identifying the subject, as they genuinely, quote, had no idea who he was or where he went, given the ninja-level exit the shooter made and the fact that a major airport was about half an hour away. He easily could have boarded a Jet2 holiday before they even combed the security cameras. But in the wee hours of September 12th, a break came in. The shooter's father recognized his willowy frame and the security cam grabs. He then confronted the shooter, who confirmed to his father that it was indeed him, but he would rather end his life than turn himself in. But at this point, the shooter's father called their local youth pastor, who also happens to be a court security officer, if there ever was a more American side hustle, who the shooter confessed to, and the youth pastor cop turned him in then and there. I don't know if I'd turn my son in for anything like that. I don't know what I would do. I don't know. I mean, I think I would hopefully know if my son... I don't think my son would have a rifle. I don't live in Utah. The governor of Utah, Spencer Cox, said the quiet part loud. For the last 33 hours, I had been praying that this person, who murdered Charlie Kirk allegedly, was from another country. That he was not one of us, because we are not like that. But it was one of us. Yeah. The shooter's name is Tyler Robinson, a 22-year-old honor student studying to be an electrician from a solidly Republican suburban Mormon family who are also intensely into guns, according to his mother's now private Facebook profile. That poor woman. Although the jury is literally still out on his motive, acquaintances and family members made notice of an increasing hatred of Charlie Kirk in recent months. However, the memes on the bullets. 3 of the unfired shell casings recovered from the rifle had inscriptions that seemed to reference opposition to fascism, but it's unclear if they are an expression of the gunman's ideology or just online jargon and memes. We have looked this up so that you don't have to. And Andrew has left a note. Seriously, I would rather watch 24 hours straight of the Bop House than decode Gen Z incel memes again. Lol. The inscription on the fired casing read, "Notices, bulges, OWO, what's this?" This is a niche meme among very online Gen Z males pertaining to 2 furries, and that is people who get sexual arousal connected to fursuits. Anthropomorphic fantasies or roleplay, with the best guess being that in his vignette, the 2 furries are unaware they're both men on a... The 2 furries are unaware they're both men on account of them being in a fursuit until one notices the other's human penis and balls. I don't even know what I just read. I can't read it for you again. Oopsie doopsie. The first unfired casing said, "Hey fascists, catch," with an up arrow, a right arrow, and 3 downward-facing arrows. On its face, this would apparently be the mark of an anti-fascist. However, gamers everywhere have noticed this is a reference to the video game series Helldivers, in which entering the arrows results in a bomb strike against virtual fascist characters. Okay. The second said, "Oh, bella ciao, bella ciao, bella ciao, ciao, ciao." Bella ciao refers to an Italian folk song with a, quote, sprawling cultural history, and became popular as an anti-fascist anthem in Italy after World War II. It's still used as a song of unity or protest, but it's also widely used in non-political contexts. It recently became known worldwide due to its use in the Netflix series Money Heist and in video games like Far Cry 6. And the third shell casing said, "If you read this, you are gay, LMAO," which, as far as anyone can tell, is just good old-fashioned casual homophobia. So it seems as though he's perhaps less on the left or right end of the spectrum and just in keeping with the school shooter archetype. He's young, disaffective, ideologically amorphous, extremely online, and raised in gun culture. Hard-right conservatives are under scrutiny for identifying a target before authorities had identified a motive, something on display Friday night when his wife, Erica, eulogized him on his podcast set and said, "You have no idea what you've just unleashed across this entire country and this world. You have no idea the fire that you have ignited within this wife. The cries of this widow will echo around the world like a battle cry." mean, I don't even know. That to me indicates, I don't know, that they assumed this was an act of the left and that it would embolden young, gun-hungry conservatives even more. But then it's all thrown up into chaos when it appears to be a young, gun-hungry conservative who did it in the first place. When not calling for outright civil war against a non-existent enemy, supporters of Kirk were alarmed at scores of social media posts celebrating the attack, if not making light of it, and demanded a degree of empathy they're hard-pressed to give in return. A familiar refrain from, "But he's a father," was heard wherever someone brought up the unambiguous vitriol he'd spout on a regular basis, like the former canceled out the latter. Maybe this is why people are struggling to have empathy for Charlie Kirk, despite the fact that he was a, quote, good dad. Here's a sampling of his greatest non-Taylor Swift-related hits. On gun violence, he said, "I think it's worth to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year so that we can have the Second Amendment to protect our other God-given rights. That's a prudent deal. It's rational." On whether he would support his 10-year-old daughter aborting a pregnancy conceived because of rape, the answer is yes, the baby would be delivered. On race, "If I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified." On Islam, "Islam is the sword the left is using to slit the throat of America." That's poetic. That's good writing, actually. On the LGBTQAI plus community, "God's perfect law says gay people should be stoned to death." And this was in response to toddler queen Miss Rachel quoting the same Old Testament Bible passage that says, "Love thy neighbor." And finally, on empathy, Charlie Kirk said, "I can't stand the word empathy, actually. I think empathy is a made-up New Age term that it does a lot of damage." I mean, perhaps this should be a lesson for all of us to live our lives in such a way that if people directly quote us after we pass, no one will accuse them of speaking ill of the dead. So the feminist website Jezebel.com is in some curiously timed hot water after publishing an article the day before the shooting about them hiring a witch on Etsy to hex Charlie Kirk. It's since been scrubbed with an apology in its place of where the original text was, but it was wild. And it's well worth a read. I'm not going to read it. It's a bad, maybe just don't hire a witch to hex someone because you don't know if like a young incel was planning to kill them the next day and then it looks bad on you. In summary, guys, I hated the video that I saw. I do not wish violence on my worst enemy. Charlie Kirk, like all motivated, young, smart, articulate guys, he did have some positive influence. I think he had a lot of negative influence as well. I think a lot of people now set out to be professional instigators. They do want to cause not only debate, but division. And they say hateful things. Do they deserve to be shot in public? Absolutely not. But there you go. Now you know, if you don't have a 16-year-old, what happened? What the hell? I'm in the emails now. If you ever want to write me an email, the address is tellingeverybodyeverything@gmail.com. That email could be a dilemma that you're having. It could be a comment on what you heard on the week's podcast. It could be some advice for another listener who's having a dilemma. This poor woman with the stalker who was released in August, we don't know if she's alive. I would appreciate a little letter from you, babe. Yeah, this one is timely. The title is, "He Had an Affair, Lost Weight for the Side Chick. I Took Him Back. Now He's Fat Again." Whew. Probably lured in by the Manjaro, like Tom. Okay. Katherine, I found out my husband of 17 years was having an affair with a colleague for a duration of 9 months. Apparently it only got to kissing, never sex. But who knows? They probably fucked. First of all, it doesn't matter. He was unfaithful. There was a betrayal. You need to kind of put this, your brain's primary job is to protect you, right? So your brain is going to file this away as whatever you can handle right now. So if you would like to believe that he was just kissing this colleague for 9 months, fine. You don't want to picture them actually having like penetrative intercourse, fine. But they might as well have, so they probably did. If not, what a fucking loser. Like, what a waste of time. Because, and I think he's lying because for men, I think it matters. For men, I think if you had an affair, they'd be like, okay, did you have a crush on him? Did you just go to like a musical theater show with him? Did you kiss him, or was his penis inside of you? I think like that distinction would matter to him more than it would to you. When to me, it's like, well, you had an emotional affair, you might as well have fucked her. And more fool you if you didn't, because like you missed out. I hate you just the same. Okay, my dilemma. For now, I have chosen to stay with him. And God bless you for that very important for now section. And I think that's how everyone should approach an affair. For now, I would like to keep the peace. For now, I have decided to try XYZ. You still have the right, by the way, to kick him out in 3 years, to kick him out in 10 years, to lie in wait for 20 years and then like have sex with his dad. You know what I mean? You have whatever, you hold on to this, do what you want with this. You can make a new choice every morning. We have 2 kids together and my whole lifetime built around him. I work in a wellness industry. I've always invested time and energy and discipline into staying fit. And for the last 9 years, my husband has been in the obese weight range. My husband lost significant weight for his side chick. He was down 15 kilos. Since I caught him out and he's cut contact with this side chick, he's steadily regained a kilogram a week and he's heading back to obese territory. This makes me angry. Is this petty? Are we doomed? I don't want to fat shame him, but the fact that he lost weight for someone else but won't maintain it for me makes me angry and hurt. I would appreciate your opinion. This is the best news possible because hopefully, in addition to regaining a kilogram a week, this yo-yo dieting is leading him one step closer towards cardiovascular disease. Know what I'm saying? And then the decision is made for you. Know what I mean? So I think cook for this man. High glycemic, like omega-6, bad fats, vegetable oil, whatever you can get your hands on. Processed food, fried food. Maybe he'd like to smoke. Is smoking something he would try? This guy sounds like a piece of shit, and unfortunately, some people aren't smart enough to grow with someone. And men especially, I think, like, it's easier for them to have an affair, to get a little bit of excitement than it is to, like, discuss problems, go to therapy. If you are choosing to be with him for now, for 5 years, for 10 years, for whatever, for the kids, that's your choice and I don't judge you for that. It might be time for you guys to actually get couples therapy, like try to fall in love with each other again. If you're going to be in the same house anyway, it might be nice to make it work so that you love him. Because right now, like, you know what I mean? You guys just don't seem to have love or respect for each other. You're in it for why? Like, everything you've built around him and your 2 kids, well, it seems like he is metaphorically taking up more and more and more space in your life. And what happens when a man does that is you have to shrink yourself to accommodate the space he takes up, not just physically in the house, but like his energy is going to be low. You've got resentment now from what he did to you. I wouldn't want to tell you what to do, but I hope if it were me, and I think it would be hard if it were me, because I would stand a lot to lose financially and I wouldn't want to not have my kids all the time. But I think maybe if he is not being a leader about getting into therapy and like righting his wrongs and making it up to you, if he's just like not allowed to see his side chick anymore, so he's sad and he's like at home getting fat because he's sad because you will no longer let him have this kissing affair, then you need to maybe get therapy yourself and like just discover where your boundaries are and what's going to make you happiest in life, because you're going to die And as old as you feel, as invested as you are, you're only going to get older and more invested. And you're going to turn around at age 70 and be like, why did I stay with this fat loser who cheated on me when I could have been either with someone else or, better yet, alone with no bad energy, no one betraying you, doing what you want, having your kids half the time, but having them in a happy home. Think about it. Okay, marriage is in the air. Joanne just got married twice. She got married in the UK, and then she officially got married in Canada. So that's great. That's another one of us shortening our life expectancy to increase that of a man's. Taylor Swift is getting married, and now a woman in my DMs says, my soon-to-be mother-in-law gives me the ick. Katherine, I'm marrying my partner of 6 years this month. I like his family, but his mother is way too much. I would describe her as an unreliable narrator with a heart of gold. She's never been anything but kind and welcoming to me, but she's too kind. She greets me with a big hug and kiss on the cheek. We are American, so this is very weird to me. She's gone on and on about what a great daughter I am, even before we were engaged. She's always trying to get me alone. She's asking me to talk in her bedroom, pulling me out of general conversation just to talk to her, and constantly trying to get me to go shopping or out to lunch, quote, just the two of us. It might make more sense if she didn't already have her own daughter. She does have one and a granddaughter, both of whom live near her and her husband. I've honestly never been comfortable with the level of closeness she wants from me. There have always been various undisclosed health issues that have led to clear abuse of pain medication and alcohol. This woman sounds fucking awesome. The whole family just ignores it or says, oh, mom, and laughs it off. I can't put my finger on what exactly puts my guard up, but for some reason, I do not trust her over sweetness. I can't help that I don't feel the connection she wants. I also feel angry with her for obvious attempts to manipulate me into some kind of relationship that my behavior has made it clear I'm not open to having. I have dreams that my partner and I have a baby and she's pushing her way in or taking the baby away or otherwise interfering. Do you have any advice? I think a sit-down conversation might just hurt her feelings, but I worry her insistence on ultra closeness will only get worse once we're married and if we start a family. I wish my partner would run more interference, but I don't know how to tell him. His mom gives me the ick. This is a great letter. And it is your partner's job. And it is a red flag. If you are about to take this man as your husband and you don't feel like you can ask him to advocate for you, especially when it is protecting you. Like this is your own self-preservation and protection. And you're not asking him to distance himself from his family or cut ties with his mother. Like he should know you better than anyone on earth. And you need to go, look, I know you love your mom. I love your mom. But for me and my level of comfort, she comes on too strongly. I hate that I'm always rejecting her. I hate feeling completely misunderstood. Like she just ignores my resistance to this closeness. That's a red flag for me. And say it out loud. You're American. You said so yourself. So why are you acting British about this? Be like, I'm worried if we have a baby, she will insert herself too much. I'm worried that if we have a baby, your like pain pills, alcoholic mom is going to demand like sleepovers and time. And I just don't trust her. There's something. And you know what? I don't know if you grew up with alcoholism or prescription medication abuse or whatever, but like your spidey sense around that is absolutely accurate. This woman could be the sweetest, most like over the top loving woman in the world. But anyone navigating an addiction issue would make a dog feel unsafe because they don't have normal interactions. They're a little bit unpredictable. They're operating on a different vibration to a sober person. So like I wouldn't like that either. And you know who's always been excellent at that is Violet. So when people have like problems, I'm attracted to them for some reason. I'm like, ooh, that's a really interesting like toxic trait that person has. I wonder if I can busy myself with that, get closer to that, maybe fix that. But anyone with like drug, alcohol, like narcissism, any problem, Violet's like, she's always put like such a firm wall up. Even as a 5-year-old, she'd be like, I don't like that guy. I don't like that person. I don't like her. She just developed like a very early ick, and I loudly praise her for that. And I say like how important it is to listen to that and how I wish I had that. And even back when I used to get drunk, and I would never be like pissed around my child, but I mean, that's not true. I've certainly been pissed around Violet a few times in mixed company, like if my mom and my sisters were there, or like we were at a birthday party or something. A few occasions. In Vegas, yes, Violet saw me absolutely pissed at a Backstreet Boys concert, but my mom was there. It was fine. But even if I'd had like 2 glasses of wine and I had girlfriends over for dinner, Violet would give me a side eye and she'd be like, I don't like this. Like, stop drinking now. I don't like it. Violet doesn't like any type of intoxication at all on me. And that makes sense. And I think you're an adult woman, but you're right not to like it. It's like off-putting. She's vibrating different to you. You don't like it. She ignores your boundaries. And your husband, or your soon-to-be husband, needs to be made to understand under no uncertain terms, like, you have to advocate for me, or else you are not someone that I feel safe being married to. And I don't know your mother as well as you do, so you do it in the most delicate way that you want. I don't want to cause friction in your family. But I'm not looking for this type of closeness with her. And I'm not getting in deeper if I think that I will not be able to get out. And you're right to have those worries because, like, oh my God, you don't want to have like his son and then she's englommed in your life and you're toast. You're toast then. Good luck. That's all the time we have for today on Telling Everybody Everything. Thank you so much for listening, for downloading, to subscribing to the show. We put clips of it on socials, but we do put the full episode on YouTube when I remember to send Rebecca the SD cards, which I'll be honest, isn't very often. But if you would like consistency from me, like reliability, really well-produced visuals, edits, research, guests, all that kind of thing, you can listen to season 2 of What's My Age Again that comes out at the end of September. Really exciting guests on season 2. We also retest my biological age on season 2. You might remember that it was 77 in season 1, but I'd been through like a real trauma, so we tested it again, and the scientists think it might go down. I think it will probably only go up, but we'll see. So that drops September 30th. I'm not sure who the first guest is, but it could be someone really exciting. Like, I don't want to give you any spoilers. I mean, it could be anyone. It could be anyone. Great guests. And there's also Write Me Dirty, which is the aforementioned podcast where comedians come on and they write erotic fan fiction about each other. I think you'll love that one. Give it a try. It's kind of like porn. Like it really does get shadow banned on TikTok. I think Rosie Jones, I gave her the task of writing about a sexual scenario in a casino, and she had dice falling out of her vagina, dripping wet. Like they were all connected in one single like drip. So, we can't really share a lot about that podcast, but it was funny. Like it's just crude funny. And then some episodes do not feature Rosie Jones and then are quite clean. Jake Lambert, if you want clean, listen to his episode. Beautifully written. Sex, but not really sex at all. It's fun to make. And